Well, I know you've had a whole day of technical talks, so I promise I'm not going to be super technical. I'm going to talk about payments, but I'm also going to talk about the future. So yeah, let's start. Perfect. Well, payments in banking, um, the infrastructure that we have today is old. It's archaic. What do I mean by that? I'd love to kind of take you guys through a history of card payments. Um, Starting with like the front end of card payments. Um, this is the front end, the things that you kind of interact with, experience, right? The first credit card was launched in 1950s, which was the Diners Club card. Over the next couple of decades, we had a lot of improvements in security specifically to launch the Max Stripe card, where your card details are stored on a magnetic stripe. A couple decades later, we had the EMV chips, which is the chip and pin cards in the 1980s. Fast track to today, we have mobile phones, we have contactless payments, we literally have Apple Pay and Google Pay that you can use your phones to make card payments. Hell, you can make card payments from your watch. So the front end has really evolved extensively. But what about the back end, right? Not so much, to be honest. Who here knows, in the audience, knows COBOL? Anyone? A show of hands. Yeah, I didn't think so. So the payments backend, the banking backend, is based on a programming language called COBOL, which was developed in the 1950s, and not even for that purpose. It's 60 years old. It powers 80% of the transactions today. Um, the main processes in card payments, which is authorization, clearing, and settlements, they're based on standards called as ISO 8583, and the base 1, base 2, which Visa uses, that's about 3 to 4 decades old. Now, what happens when the front end, which is so evolved, tries to talk to this back end, which is super archaic? It creates a lot of intermediaries. It creates a lot of small companies trying to solve smaller problems and make incremental upgrades. What that means is one card payment from you to the merchant has about 8 to 12 intermediaries on average. They increase the cost, they increase the complexity, they make it slower and inefficient. Um, just, just to give you a sense why people are so resistant to making any change on this COBOL system, on all the archaic backend infrastructure, is because it's so complex, and now it's become a giant spaghetti, literally. Because everyone's made incremental changes, and no one knows if they change something or try to overhaul the system, what's going to happen. To put that into perspective, Commonwealth Bank of Australia, in 2012, they attempted to change their whole banking platform. It took them 5 years and $750 million to change it. That's how big the problem is. What's the solution to this? We think there is potential for blockchain to change this. In what way, right? I mean, blockchain's original promise in 2009 was to be a peer-to-peer electronics money network or a cash network, a payments network. But we had about a decade and a half of inventions. Blockchain wasn't really mature. But I feel we're finally at the cusp where we can actually build products for the mass consumers, right? We've had a lot of changes that tackle all our UX challenges. We can literally have now smart accounts. We can have social recovery. We can have passkey-based logins. We don't have to worry about gas anymore. It can be sponsored. We don't have to have native tokens on chains, right? We're making it super user-friendly. Coupled with that, we have the regulators also showing a lot of interest, drawing up frameworks, and thinking about how to enable growth using blockchain. And lastly, like we have had a lot of improvements in scalability. That was a major problem over the last few years. Even that's getting to a place where it can be solved, right? So how now we have the old technology and we have the blockchain technology. How do we merge them, and how does blockchain solve this, right? To explain this, I want to use an example from the telecom industry. It was the early 2000s, where we had the old telecom infrastructure. If you remember, you had landlines, right? You used to call one another, like using landlines, which were connected by cables, like huge telecom towers, right? That was the old infrastructure. Early 2000s, we had voice over IP, which is basically calls over the internet. But for the first 10 years, there was literally not a lot of development on it. It did not achieve a lot of growth. In 2010s, there was an inflection point, which is when Skype released the voice in, voice out product. What it meant was the new technology started talking to the old kind of old rails, right? You could call from your Skype app to any landline number and vice versa. the users got access to a new technology without changing their habits. And that's when the inflection happened. And fast forward to today, almost all of telecom is on top of VoIP, and people don't even know it. And that's what we want to do with Gnosis Pay. We want to bridge TradFi, the old banking and the payments infrastructure, with the new infrastructure and the product that we are building to bridge it. That is what we are doing at Gnosis Pay. And our obvious vision is that in the future, all transactions are on-chain, making them cheaper, faster, more efficient, and secure. Let me give you an example of how we're kind of bridging the gap between TradFi and DeFi. Right? Imagine you have a card, you're going to buy a coffee, you tap the terminal. What happens in the background is the terminal sends a message to the acquirer, which is the bank of the merchant or the coffee shop owner. They send a message to Visa, which is the payment network, telling them, hey, I need this money from this guy. Visa sends a message to the issuing bank or through a processor, the bank of the cardholder, telling them, hey, you need to send this money. What we've done is we've built a processor that communicates with Visa, takes their message, and also, like through our issuer processor, takes their message, queries the data on-chain, and communicates a message back that this customer has the money and you're good to go. And so on and so forth with clearing and settlement. This is a very high-level explanation, but in a nutshell, this is how we are plugging into the existing payments infrastructure stack. Right? And all of the transactions here basically go through the Gnosis Pay account, which is based on the Gnosis chain, which is essentially a payments network. So I've spoken a lot about the future, the past. What are we really doing, right? We're the world's first on-chain self-custodial checkings account with a debit card attached to it. Right? What does that really mean? It's a new way of thinking about a checkings account, where the core is based on blockchain. We have a smart contract wallet, essentially, which is a safe, which stores like currencies in form of blockchain tokens, which is EUROE, GBPE, and we attach a debit card to it and an IBAN to it. An IBAN is an international banking account number. What it's essentially doing is think of your regular checkings account. What do you use it for, right? You use it to store money. Use it to put money in. You can use a bank transfer to send your money to your account, or you can do an on-chain transfer. Or if you want to put money out, you can do a bank transfer to any address, or you can do an on-chain transfer to any address. Or you can use a card to spend your money, right? That's why you use a bank account. You can use a card anywhere in the world. And that's exactly what we're doing. It's a checkings account. I think one thing I forgot to mention is what the Gnosis Pay account or the new account is doing is synonymity between DeFi and TradFi. It's one account for literally everything. You don't have to worry about being in TradFi or being in DeFi. And some of the benefits are, like it's a self-custodial card. What it means is we empower the users to custody their own funds if they choose to. You can be your own bank. You don't have to worry about banks failing or for any other reason. Second is we've launched like fairly recently. We launched about a couple of months back. And we have a lot of special perks for our early adopters. We have the OG NFT, and there's a bunch of things that we've planned. Third is you can access, through this account, like Web3 instruments. You can connect to any dApp. You can access better yields, other financial products that were not available to users before in Web2. You can literally spend with your card, the Gnosis card, anywhere in the world, about 80 million Visa merchants worldwide. And you can on-ramp and off-ramp in an instant. What that means is you can send a bank transfer from your regular neobank, and poof, in a matter of seconds, you'll have the money on-chain without any fees. This is through a partner called Monerium. And the last part, we're not trying to build in a silo. We're trying to work with regulators and build a product that is compliant with all the regulations. And we use a lot of partners for this. What's next for us at Gnosis Pay? We want to add an Apple Pay, Google Pay integration. So we go back to the customers in the habits that they're used to without changing their habits. We want to have more stable coins onto the product or like make it a multi-currency card, essentially. And thirdly, we're going to also introduce a rewards program, especially with a lot of perks for early adopters. What does attraction look like? We launched on the February of 5th, 2024. We've had about 10,000 people who are waiting across the world to get their cards. We have about 2,800 cards that have been delivered or have been ordered. And we are close to reaching about $1 million in payment volumes. As you can see, we've seen a lot of exponential growth in terms of the payments that have happened per week. We've crossed 3,000 payments per week now. And we've also seen a growth in the number of active users. So we're super bullish on this. Where can you find us right now? EEA, UK, Switzerland, about 30 plus countries. Our plans next in terms of expansion is to go to Brazil, the US, and hopefully the Middle East and Asia very soon. One thing I think in true Gnosis ethos is to build products or infrastructure that are open and that people can build on top of. So in that spirit, we want you to collaborate with us. If you're a builder in Web3, you can come build on top of our product, build interfaces. We've already seen so many people build private projects that allow you to hold, for example, yield-bearing stablecoins and connect that to your Gnosis card so that you're always earning yield. It's a very efficient way of doing it. And similarly, you can also collateralize your volatile assets like your BTC or your ETH and basically take a loan and get your OE to spend against your Gnosis card. These things seem small, but this is revolutionary in the sense that things like this were only available for people in Web 2 who are super privileged, who are super wealthy. But now we can democratize it because of blockchain. And the other thing you can do is, if you're a wallet or a community in Web3 which has a lot of users, which have a lot of crypto, and they want to spend it in a self-custodial way, come talk to us. We can have a referral arrangement where you can refer users to us. These are some of the partners that make the product possible. Obviously, Visa is a big one, and they've been helping us a lot. We also work with Monovate, Monerium, Fractal, Karpathy, and Safe, and a bunch of other products. That being said, I invite you to kind of join us on our journey, join the revolution, order your card now by scanning the QR code. Thank you.